I stood still. I was in the grand foyer of the house. I once thought this would be my home forever. Light from the chandelier sparkled on the shiny marble floor. Fancy suitcases were placed neatly. They sent a clear message without words. My hand shook as I looked at the bags. This was the birthday gift he gave me last year. He said something sweet then. "You are the only one who makes this world worth trying for." Now. It was the end mark of our story. Brandon leaned against a marble column. He had a glass of bourbon in his hand. His face was calm, like he had just finished a work meeting, not an 8-year marriage. "Sarah, everything is ready," he said. His voice was flat like a weather report. "The driver will be here in 15 minutes. You can go anywhere you want." I bit my lip. "So this is it. 8 years, Brandon. 8 years. And now you are just kicking me out like I'm a stranger." He shrugged. "Don't make this a big sad event. We both know this marriage had a purpose. You helped me enough, especially when you used your inheritance to start Horizon Grid." I felt my heart break, but I refused to fall apart. "It is easy for you to say, isn't it? You are leaving with a tech company worth hundreds of millions, and I am being thrown out onto the street." Brandon moved his drink. Pride showed in his eyes. "You should feel proud. Thanks to you, Horizon Grid became a leader in keeping medical data safe. But now, I need someone better suited to stand next to me at big meetings and board events. Someone like Vanessa, for example." My hand tightened into a fist when I heard her name. She was his new assistant. She was 26 years old. She kept appearing in every event photo, always standing too close, smiling too brightly. "Vanessa understands technology," he continued. He spoke like he was teaching a child. "She is smart about planning, and most important, she does not let feelings cloud her decisions. You were great at the start, but Horizon Grid is not a small project in a garage anymore. We are on a world stage now." I looked around the mansion. Every painting I chose, every custom piece of furniture, every step we had taken in this home. It was all built with the money my parents left me after their plane crash. It was $2,500,000. I had not thought twice when I gave all of it to Brandon. I believed we were building a great company and a life, together. But I was wrong. I believed in love. He only needed money. "I used to be proud I helped build Horizon Grid," I said. My voice was calm, even though my heart was hurting. "But you know what is funny? Brandon, you think you have won. You think this was a game you played better." He smirked. "Isn't it?" I picked up the suitcase. My heels made sharp sounds on the marble. Each step was a year I had given to him. Nights without sleep, cancelled trips, parties planned so he could meet people. At the door, I turned back. "Good luck with the IPO. Really? I am sure. Interesting things are coming." His face moved slightly. He did not ask questions, but for a moment, his eyes showed he was unsure. He did not know what I had planned. I sat in the hotel room. I leaned against the soft chair. I watched the city lights blink through the window. The 18th floor of the Alara Hotel did not feel like winning. Not yet. It was just a break, a stop on the way to one final place. The truth. I opened my laptop. The soft blue light showed the screen. Each file was a piece of a puzzle. They all pointed to the betrayal I once tried to ignore. I met Brandon when I was 27. I had just finished my MBA in Boston. He was the main speaker at a health tech company event. I was a guest there. He was full of energy, he was charming, and most important, he had big dreams. Horizon Grid was just an idea on a screen, a few lines of computer code, and a name no one had heard of. But I was convinced, not by the business idea, but by the way his eyes lit up. He said, "Healthcare deserves the best technology protection." 3 months later, I was his wife. 2 years later. My parents died in a plane crash. They were flying from Arizona to California. They left me everything. It was almost $2,500,000, plus parts of the family building company. I had this managed by others. Brandon did not hesitate when I offered to invest all of it in Horizon Grid. I still remember the look in his eyes, as if he could not believe someone could love and trust him that much. We moved from a small rented apartment to a real office space in San Jose. I was not just the investor, I was the one making decisions from the first day. I hired an accountant, signed the lease, created the company look, hired the first workers. 4 years later, Horizon Grid got $8,000. The media called Brandon a genius, while I was put more in the background. I told myself that is how the world works, that I did not need the spotlight to feel important. But then, Vanessa came along. She was hired as his assistant. She was 26. She had experience at a company that invests in new businesses. She was blonde, always smiling, and her eyes knew exactly what she wanted. At first, I thought Brandon was just being a good boss, hiring smart people. But the late-night meetings, the messages after work hours, the looks they shared at big events. Soon I stopped wondering. I knew. I did not scream. I did not confront him. I got ready. I hired a personal lawyer. Sandra. She was an old friend from my MBA program. We looked through every investment paper, every money transfer, every email. Proof of my part from the start. Everything was saved, copied, and protected 3 times over. Brandon was too busy to notice. He was busy traveling, making Vanessa like him, and quietly talking with future investors. What kept me quiet was a small bit of hope that he would see, that somewhere inside, he would recognize the one who helped build the very beginning. But that moment never came. Last week I found an email he sent to his private lawyer. He was talking about how to deal with unclear ownership from his wife's side. This was a nice way of saying he planned to cut me out of Horizon Grid. I did not cry. I did not yell. I just laughed. Quietly, not from pain, but because how shameless he was had reached its peak. Brandon thought I did not know, but his biggest mistake was thinking I would not act. I looked at the clock. It was 11:47 p.m. Tomorrow morning the board meeting would happen, and I would be there, not as the wife who was left behind, but as the co-founder of a company worth hundreds of millions. I do not know exactly when I stopped being the disappointed wife and became the quiet planner. Maybe it started the day I was asked to leave the starting team. This was to avoid problems. Brandon said it with a friendly smile, but his eyes did not hide the takeover. I did not fight back. I nodded, smiled just enough. I was calm and in control. And from that day forward, I began building a separate plan, quietly, step by step. I hired Sandra not just to check papers, but to dig into Horizon Grid's money over the last 3 years. She is the kind of woman who does not ask out of interest, only because she needs the truth. Every week she sent me reports. They were many pages long. Bank statements, records of money transfers, and shady consulting fees I had not noticed before. Brandon had no idea. The system the company used for money, the one I personally chose, still allowed me to access my first account, and I, playing the part of the friendly ex-wife, could still see every bit of money, going through each small part of the company. I found a regular monthly payment series. The receiver was listed as Altison LLC. This was a fake company registered in Delaware. The strange thing was, Altison had no website, no employees listed publicly, and did not appear in any work reports. Yet it was getting regular payments from Horizon Grid. Each time, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars. It did not take Sandra long to find the path. Alderson was just a name. Behind it was a network of accounts in Bermuda and Luxembourg, and the person listed as the operator. It was one of Brandon's close work friends, who also happened to be Vanessa's mentor when she was training at the company. I printed all the papers. I marked every money transfer, every approval sign, every private email sent from Brandon's account. What I had was not just proof of stealing money, it was the quiet proof of a system made to remove me from everything I helped build. One evening, sitting with Sandra on the hotel roof, with coffee in hand, she placed her hand on the folder. She said, "If you make all this public before the IPO, Horizon Grid will be checked, the SEC will get involved, Brandon could lose everything. Are you ready?" I did not answer right away. I thought of my parents. They worked their whole lives to give me a chance. I thought of those early nights with Brandon, staying up late writing business plans. And then I thought of Vanessa, sleeping in my bed, sitting in the place I was once promised for life. "Ready?" I said. "But I am not here to ruin Horizon Grid. I just want to get back what is mine by right, and stop him from doing worse things to someone else." I sent some anonymous emails with papers attached to 3 board members. Not too much, just enough to make them suspicious. A copy was also sent to the company's legal office. This was like an inside warning. And I saved the strongest card for the meeting the next morning. That night, I got a message from Lauren, my best friend from college. "Are you okay? Don't let him win." I replied with just 2 words. "It begins." I closed the laptop. The city lights below still sparkled, as if the whole world was waiting quietly for the final move in a long game. The next morning, I walked into Horizon Grid's main office. I was as calm as if nothing had ever happened. The work pass I had kept since the early days still worked. The guard at the front desk blinked in surprise when he saw me. "Good morning, Mrs. Carter," he said. He was clearly confused. "I thought you did not work here anymore." I smiled. I swiped my pass through the scanner. "Someone must have misunderstood," I said gently. "I am here to make that clear." The elevator took me to the 32nd floor, the boardroom. I had once walked into that space as a co-founder. Now I returned carrying the truth. The glass doors opened. 12 people sat around the long table. They turned to look at me. Their faces changed from surprised to uneasy. Brandon stood at the head of the table. He wore a light grey suit. His hair was styled perfectly. He was in the middle of his presentation. "This morning, we will vote to approve the IPO plan as discussed last week." He stopped talking when he saw me. A heavy silence filled the room. I stepped forward. I placed my laptop on the table across from him. "Before anyone votes," I said. My voice was calm but strong. "I think the board deserves to hear a few things. An older board member, Mr. Fletcher. He once sat next to me in the company's very first meeting." He leaned forward. "Sarah, your name is not on today's guest list." "I am not here as a guest," I replied. I opened the laptop and connected it to the large screen on the wall. "I am here as one of the founding partners and original investors of Horizon Grid." Brandon chuckled, but something in his eyes began to show he was worried. "Sarah, this is an internal board meeting. You do not have the right." "Yes, I do," I cut in. I showed the screen with the first investment contract. "This is a wire transfer of $2,500,000, 0 cents, from my personal account, to start the company. And here is the rule confirming my right to vote on all big decisions about who owns the company, including the IPO." The room became very quiet. I clicked to the next screen. Internal meeting notes. Brandon's signature was still visible. It named me as a co-founder in the notes. Vanessa, seated beside Brandon, moved in her chair. I did not look at her. I kept my eyes on Brandon. "I am not just your wife," I said. "I have been with you from day one. I believed, I invested, and I helped build Horizon Grid, from a vague idea in a rented apartment." Brandon tried to regain control. "All of that was years ago. The company has changed. We have a new structure now." I nodded. "And this new structure, is it clear?" I pressed a key. The screen split. The left side showed the first bank statements. The right side showed the money being sent out to AltoSyn LLC, the fake company located outside the country. These funds were transferred regularly over the past year, without the board agreeing, I said slowly. And here is an email exchange between Brandon and his money partner. They discuss dividing hidden shares to a third person. Someone whose name starts with V. Vanessa froze. Brandon's face turned pale. "You cannot," Brandon stammered. "I can," I replied, "because I'm not stealing anything. I am just showing what you tried to hide." Another board member, Keller, representing the main investment group, turned to Brandon. "How do you explain this?" No one spoke to defend him. The room, once Brandon's space, was now filled only with sounds of clicking mice and discomfort. "If the board wants to move forward with an IPO based on false records, hidden founder money, and possible federal law breaking, I will step aside. But if you choose truth, I am ready to stay and suggest a new way forward." The air felt thick. I did not need to say more. The facts were clear. And Brandon, even with his forced smile, knew. The game had changed. The meeting ended in heavy silence. No clapping, no polite handshakes. The board members left, each deep in thought, phones held tightly. It was just me. Brandon and Vanessa left in the space, where his power used to be complete. Brandon tried to stay calm, but his hands shook as he picked up the leftover papers. Vanessa avoided looking at me. Her lips pressed tight. Her eyes looked like someone waking from a long dream. The next day, the board officially announced a delay of the IPO. For an unknown time, an independent Czech company was appointed. The internal legal team started working with another group to check all financial activity from the past 3 years. Within 48 hours, a press conference was held. Brandon was not named directly, but the message was clear. Horizon Grid would rethink who was in charge. This was to ensure clearness and long-term value for those who own shares. News spread quickly. Headlines shouted, "Big startup Horizon Grid stops IPO," amid money fraud claims, founder accused of hiding original co-founder's part. Ex-wife appears, turns entire tech company upside down. I did not appear in interviews. I did not need to. Sometimes being quiet is the strongest weapon. 3 days later, Vanessa called my lawyer. "Sandra." "She wants to meet," Sandra told me. "And not in a fighting way. Seems like she's rethinking who she supports." We met at a small coffee shop in the downtown office area. Vanessa arrived early, without a lot of makeup. She looked tired, and strangely, more real than ever. "I did not know it would go this far," she began. Her voice was soft but steady. I thought he really loved me." I did not react. I let her think about that. "But then," she continued, "when everything started falling apart, he only cared about protecting himself. He told me to delete emails, burn hard drives, move memory cards to new phones. That is when I realized I was just another piece in his game." I nodded, as if she had finally seen what I had known for years. Vanessa took out a small hard drive from her bag. Every call, email, message between me and Brandon. I saved it all. I do not want to be part of his problems anymore. I will help. Sandra took the drive. She sealed it carefully in a bag for proof. We said nothing else. At that point, talking more was not needed. A week later, the investigation grew. This time, the official government group SEC was involved. Early findings showed that at least $9,300,000, 0 cents, had been sent to accounts outside the country, without proper permission. Among these were transactions signed by Brandon, and linked with emails from Vanessa. Brandon was suspended from being CEO. While they looked into things more, the company's lawyers also refused to represent him. They wanted to stay away from possible lawsuits in just 3 weeks. Brandon went from being a wanted tech star to a name the money world did not want to deal with. And me. I did not feel like I had won big. I did not feel like getting revenge. I just felt free. One morning, EY returned to the office on the 28th floor. It was the space that was once my temporary workspace. The glass doors were perfectly clean. The desks were still perfectly neat, as if no one had ever left. But this time, I was no longer the wife who had been forgotten. I was now seen by the board as one of the main people of Horizon Grid. A short, handwritten note was on the desk. It was from Mr. Fletcher. We have reviewed the entire founding history. Thank you for standing by the truth. A great company needs more than great technology. It needs people with honesty to lead the way. I held the note tightly in my hand. My eyes looked towards the building across the street, where Brandon once wrote his first ideas. I could not fix everything he broke. But what we built together, I would protect it, the way he should have, from the beginning. The final board meeting arrived. It was held in the familiar, elegant room. Sunlight poured through tall glass windows, onto the polished wooden table. But today, everything felt different. No more of Brandon's pride, no more unsure looks, only looking forward and change. Richard Fletcher, the oldest board member, a man who always watched quietly, opened the meeting in a steady voice. We are here today to officially finish leadership decisions for Horizon Grid, following the check by independent groups and legal review. I sat across the room. My back was straight, no smile. In front of me was a thick folder. I had prepared it with my lawyer. Every paper, every number, every mistake. Brandon had hidden them under his polished image. Brandon was not there. His lawyer had sent a 3-page letter, full of saying no and asking for delays. But no one on the board had the patience for it anymore. After reviewing all proof, Mr. Fletcher continued, the board votes together to remove Brandon Carter from being in charge and demand he quit as CEO right away. Some quiet talking followed, but no one was against it. From being a symbol, Brandon had become a problem. We have also worked with money authorities, he added. Altos and LLC's account and all related money outside the country have been frozen. The investigation continues, and the SEC will decide the next steps. I gave a slight nod. The most important part was coming. Finally. Mr. Fletcher turned to me. The board has voted to name Sarah Carter as executive chairperson, with full power over big decisions and changing the company's structure. The room was quiet for a moment. I did not stand right away. I looked quietly at each board member. People who once turned away from me, who believed Brandon's charm. Now they were putting their trust in me. We believe, Mr. Fletcher continued, Ms. Carter not only has the legal power, but also the vision and good values needed to get Horizon Grid back on track. I stood, brushing my fingers across the table, where I once put coffee for my husband. This was back when we only had a few staff and a half-formed dream. I accept, I said slowly, not to get back at him, but to make things right. Horizon Grid was supposed to be a sign of new ideas, not a way to hide money problems. I planned to bring that back. When the meeting ended, I went back to my office. Now it had a new metal nameplate with my title. The room was bright and open. It was no longer a place where power was hidden. I started by sending an email to all staff, a greeting, a promise, and a clear message, openness and trust. Within a week, I changed the legal team, hired a new finance head with good standing in the industry, and ordered a full check of all active contracts. Vanessa, as expected, quit her job. No one stopped her. The media kept watching closely. Articles that once praised Brandon now called him a sign of moral failure in the startup world. They asked if I wanted to comment. I said no to every interview. I did not need the public on my side. I just needed the truth on mine. One Friday afternoon, I sat alone in my office, looking out at the roof area, where Brandon and I once talked about our future. We were young and hopeful. My mind went back to the day. I transferred $2,500,000 without thinking twice, without doubt, to help the man I loved build a dream. I did not regret the money. I regretted that the man I trusted chose to remove me. Once he had everything. A month into my job as executive chairperson, the office still felt the effects of the scandal. Checks continued, but the company had become stable. Thanks to strong changes, I was not trying to start a big change. I simply brought Horizon Grid back to its main ideas. Trust, being responsible, and real new ideas. I went into Monday's meeting with everyone, my first time appearing before all the staff as the new leader. The room was full. Familiar faces from my days as the CEO's wife looked at me differently now. They were careful but hopeful. I am not here to build a new image, I began. My voice was steady. I am here to rebuild trust. All eyes were on me. I did not read from a paper. I spoke from my heart. Horizon Grid is not a shield for someone's reputation. It is the result of many people's work. Engineers, legal teams, IT staff, every line of code, every idea, every step forward. That is your work. I was lucky to be there from day one, and now I have the duty to protect it. I ended not with a catchy phrase, not with empty promises, but with a strong promise. I will not allow anyone, including myself, to put personal gain above doing business honestly. The meeting ended with clapping. It was not loud, but it was sincere. I knew trust would not return overnight, but today I had planted the first seed. That afternoon I received an envelope. It had no return address, just 3 handwritten words. From Brandon. Sarah. I opened it without hesitation. Inside was a short handwritten letter. I once thought I was unbeatable, that what I built was unbreakable. But I was wrong, and my biggest mistake was underestimating you. Horizon Grid should have been ours. I turned it into a way to control. You did not ruin the company. You saved it. You may never forgive me, and I understand. But if one day you look back, I hope you will remember that I once believed in the right thing too. Brandon, I finished reading. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. I did not cry. I did not feel like I had won big. I just felt relieved. Not because he said sorry, but because he finally saw what I had known all along. I never needed to live in anyone's shadow to prove I belonged. 3 months later, Horizon Grid entered the tech race again. It had a completely open financial plan, a new leadership team, and a new slogan shown proudly in the main lobby. Trust is the strongest technology. The media started calling me the woman who brought a company back to life. But I did not care about titles. What mattered was that every day I walked into the office. I got to do what I believed in, with people who deserved to be there. A reporter once asked during a private talk, "If you could go back, would you invest in Horizon Grid again, knowing you would be betrayed?" I just smiled. Yes, but this time I would sign my name a little bigger. And then, on a spring afternoon, standing alone on the rooftop of headquarters, it was the same place Brandon and Vanessa once had their secret meetings. I looked out towards the city view and told myself, "You underestimated me, Brandon, and that was the most expensive mistake of your life." No clapping was needed. No revenge was needed. I had risen from what once broke me. And this time, I was not following anyone, from being a quiet wife behind her husband's success. Sarah was betrayed and kicked out of the very company she helped build. But instead of falling, she rose. She gathered proof, she took back control, and she changed Horizon Grid through openness and strength. Her story is proof that trust, intelligence, and being strong can turn betrayal into power. And that sometimes, the people you do not think are important are the ones you should have never doubted. What do you think about Sarah's choice? Should she forgive or keep moving forward? Share your thoughts below. And do not forget to follow the channel for more powerful stories about family, courage, and getting things right.